I am 60 years old now, and for most of my life I thought I had known my husband completely. We were married for more than 4 decades. We laughed together, we fought sometimes, we raised children, we built a life from nothing. And when he passed away, I thought the silence he left behind was the end of his voice. I believed death had stolen him from me completely. But I was wrong. It happened on a quiet afternoon, the kind where the house feels too empty, the walls echoing with memories. I was dusting shelves I hadn't touched in years, when my eyes fell upon his Bible. It was resting on the top, leather cracked, covered in a fine layer of dust. He used to hold it every night, whispering verses with a calm I never understood. Sometimes I would tease him about it, asking why he read the same words over and over. He would just smile and say, "One day you'll understand." For years after his death I couldn't touch it. The very thought of opening that book made my chest tighten. It felt too personal, like it still belonged to him. But that day something inside me said, "Open it." My hands trembled as I pulled it down. It smelled of old paper and faint cologne, his cologne. My eyes filled with tears before I even flipped the first page. And then it happened. As I opened the Bible, something slipped out and floated to the floor. A small folded piece of paper. My heart skipped. I bent down, my fingers shaking, and when I saw his handwriting, I felt the years collapse around me. It was him. His writing. Bold, firm, yet a little shaky at the edges. My throat tightened so much I could barely breathe. I unfolded it slowly, afraid the paper might tear, as though his words could vanish if I wasn't careful. And then there it was. His message to me. "If you are reading this, my love, it means I am no longer with you. Do not grieve me too long. Live, laugh, love. And when you feel lonely, remember this. Every prayer I ever whispered was for you. Every verse I ever underlined was a way of asking God to protect you. Promise me you will not carry sorrow longer than you must." I dropped the note and covered my face with my hands. I cried the way I hadn't cried since the day I buried him. Not the quiet tears of loneliness I had shed every night since, but loud, aching sobs that came from the very core of me. He had left me something. All these years I thought he was gone, that he had left me in silence, but he hadn't. He had spoken to me across time, across death itself. I picked the note up again, pressing it to my chest. My hands clutched it so tightly I was afraid I might crush it, but I couldn't let go. I whispered to the empty room. "Why didn't I find this before? Why did you hide it away?" But in my heart, I knew he hadn't hidden it. He had left it there for me to discover at the right time when I needed it most. My eyes wandered to the Bible itself. The pages were worn, corners folded, verses underlined. His touch was everywhere. Suddenly I realized the truth. He hadn't just written me a note. He had left me a map, a trail of prayers, little pieces of himself pressed into those pages. Every night he had whispered it wasn't just for him. It was for me. For us. And then I asked myself, had I ever truly listened? Had I ever sat beside him long enough to hear those words, to ask him why they meant so much? I felt guilt wash over me, heavy and bitter. How many nights had I rolled over in bed, impatient with his quiet prayers instead of joining him? I wiped my tears, but they came back again and again. The note blurred in my vision. His voice echoed in my memory. "One day you'll understand." And now I did. Halfway through my crying, I found myself speaking aloud as though he were still there. "I miss you," I whispered. "I miss you so much." The room was silent, but somehow I felt he could hear me. And now, dear listener, I must ask you something. If you were in my place, opening a Bible or a book and finding a secret note from the one you lost, what would you do? Would you smile? Would you cry? Or would you sit there like me, unable to breathe, unable to believe that love had followed you even beyond death? Tell me, what would you feel? Because I can tell you what I felt. I felt broken and healed all at once. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat with that note in my hands until dawn painted the sky. I read it over and over, afraid the words would vanish. And for the first time in years I took the Bible into my lap. My fingers traced the verses he had underlined. It was like holding his hand again, like listening to his whispers in the dark. And as the sun rose, I realized something I had never believed possible. My husband may have left this world, but he had not left me. That night after finding the note, sleep would not come to me. I lay awake with the Bible pressed against my chest, My husband's words circling through my mind like a hymn. Do not grieve me too long. Live. Laugh. Love. But how could I laugh? How could I live when every corner of this house echoed with his absence? Yet, his note was not a request. It was a plea. And part of me felt that if I ignored it, I would betray the love we had built together. The following morning, I made tea and sat at the wooden table where he used to read. The sunlight fell across the Bible as though it had been waiting for me. My hands trembled as I opened it again, afraid I had only imagined the note. But there it was, folded neatly, his handwriting steady and certain. I read it again, tears sliding silently down my cheeks. Then my eyes fell on the underlined passages. Whole verses were marked, some with small notes in the margin. Words of comfort. Words of strength. I traced them with my finger, feeling as though I was holding his hand through the paper. One verse read, "Do not be afraid, for I am with you always." Another, "Love never fails." It was then I noticed something strange. Tucked between the thin pages was another small slip of paper. My heart jolted. Could it be another note? I pulled it out, my breath catching. Yes, it was his handwriting again. Smaller this time, hurried but clear. It said, "To my dear wife, if you ever doubt how much you meant to me, remember this. Every day I prayed not for myself but for you. You were my blessing, my gift, my reason. Please don't let sorrow steal the joy we shared." I broke down all over again. It was as if he had been waiting for me, layer by layer, to uncover the truth he had hidden in these pages. I realized then that this Bible wasn't just a book to him. It was his diary, his love letter, his way of preparing me for a world without him. My fingers shook as I flipped more pages. Here and there little scribbles appeared. Sometimes a date, sometimes my name written in the corner, sometimes just a simple heart. He had left pieces of himself everywhere. Why had I never seen this before? Why had I been too blind, too impatient, too certain that his prayers were only words for himself? I felt both comfort and regret. Comfort because I had proof that his love never wavered. Regret because I had never sat down to ask him what those verses meant to him. I had wasted opportunities to share that sacred part of his soul. And now all I could do was touch the ink he left behind. As I sat there, something stirred in me. For the first time since his passing, I didn't feel completely alone. I felt him near, not as a memory, but as a presence guiding me still. His words were not echoes of the past. They were alive, waiting for me all along. I looked around the room, suddenly aware of the silence. But it wasn't the heavy silence of grief. It was a gentle one, like the hush of a church before a hymn begins. I whispered, "Thank you." My voice shook, but I knew if he could hear me, he would smile. "I want to ask you something, dear one who is listening to my story. Have you ever lost someone and later found something they left behind? A letter, a photograph, a gift? Did it make you cry? Or did it make you smile? Did it feel like their hand reaching out from beyond, reminding you that love never truly dies? Tell me, what would you do if you found a hidden message like mine? Because I can tell you what happened to me. I felt alive again. Broken, yes, but alive. The days that followed, I made a ritual. Every morning, I sat with his Bible and searched for more. I found little notes tucked in random places, sometimes just a word circled in red, sometimes a small line in the margin. He had written things like "for her," or "remember this." Each discovery was like a conversation, a gift unwrapped slowly. But with each note I found, another thought gnawed at me. Why had he never told me? Why didn't he say, "I've left something for you in my Bible"? Perhaps he didn't want me to cling to it too soon. Perhaps he wanted me to stumble upon it when the time was right. Or perhaps he trusted that love would guide me to it. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I sat in his chair with the Bible open on my lap. I read his underlined verses aloud, pretending he was beside me, listening. And as the words filled the room, I felt something I had not felt in years: peace. That was when I understood his message more clearly. He wasn't just asking me not to grieve. He was asking me to live fully, to carry his love forward instead of burying it with him. He wanted me to be brave enough to laugh again, to love again, even if he wasn't here to hold me. And as I closed the Bible, holding his notes close to my heart, I whispered, "I promise, my love, I will try." I am 60 years old, and though I have lived through many storms, Nothing shaped me as deeply as the moment I opened that Bible and found my husband's words. What began as a single note became a journey, each page a doorway into the heart of the man I thought I already knew. But love has layers, and I discovered his only after death, hidden between verses, scribbled in margins, waiting for me like a treasure I didn't realize I had. One evening, I lit a single candle and sat at the kitchen table, his Bible spread open in front of me. The room was quiet, the kind of quiet that once used to suffocate me. But now it felt different. Now it was the quiet of presence, not absence. My hands trembled as I turned the pages slowly, like someone opening a love letter for the very first time. And then, tucked deeper than before, I found the final note. It was written in smaller, weaker handwriting, the kind that spoke of tired hands and fading strength. My eyes blurred before I could finish the first line. My dearest wife, if you have found all of this, it means you kept looking. Thank you. It means you still needed me, and I still had something left to give you. Please know this, I was never afraid of dying. I was only afraid of leaving you sad. But if my words bring you comfort, then I can rest in peace. Remember this. Love does not end in death. It changes form, but it never leaves. Carry it. Live it. Share it. I pressed the note to my chest and wept. Not the bitter, lonely tears of grief, but tears of gratitude. It felt as if he had spoken directly into my heart, across the barrier of time. And I realized that all along his greatest gift to me wasn't the years we spent together. It was the way he made sure his love would outlive him. That night, I did something I hadn't done since he passed. I laughed. It was small at first, a soft chuckle through tears, but it was real. I remembered the way he used to joke about his handwriting, calling it a doctor's scrawl. I imagined him grinning at me saying, "See? Even from heaven, I still annoy you with my messy notes." And I laughed harder until I was clutching my stomach, tears rolling down my face, but this time they weren't just sad tears. They were healing. The next morning, I gathered my children and grandchildren. I told them I had something to share. They all sat around the table, curious, maybe even worried. Slowly, I placed the Bible in front of them and opened it to the pages with his notes. My voice trembled as I read them aloud. My grandchildren's eyes widened, and my children grew silent, listening as though their father's voice had returned to the room. By the time I finished, there wasn't a dry eye around the table. My oldest granddaughter leaned over and hugged me, whispering, "Grandma, he's still here." And in that moment I realized the truth. He hadn't left us a Bible. He had left us a legacy. A story written in ink, in faith, in love. Since then I read from his Bible every night. But not just for myself. I read it for my children, for my grandchildren, for anyone who will listen. Because his message was not meant only for me. It was meant to be carried forward, like a torch that lights the way for those still walking in darkness. And now as I share this with you, I hope you see what I finally saw. Love never dies. Changes, yes. It shifts from touch to memory, from presence to echo. But it remains strong and unbroken, as long as we choose to hold it. So I must ask you, my dear listener, what would you do if you opened a book, a drawer, or a box, and found a note from someone you thought was gone forever? Would you hide it away, afraid to feel? Or would you embrace it? Let it heal you. Let it remind you that love is stronger than time. Because I am telling you, from the depths of my heart, that such moments are not accidents. They are gifts. They are proof that love finds a way to speak, even when the voice itself has gone silent. I am 60 now, with silver in my hair and lines on my face, but when I hold his Bible, I feel young again. I feel like the girl who first held his hand, the woman who first kissed him under the stars, the wife who stood beside him through everything. And though he is no longer here in flesh, he is here in every word, every verse, every whispered prayer he left behind. So tonight, before you go to bed, I want you to do one thing. Think of someone you love. Someone who may not always be here. Write them a note. Hide it where they will find it one day. Because you never know. Maybe your words will be the ones that save them when they feel most alone. This is my story. A story of grief, of discovery, of love that refused to die. I opened my husband's Bible and found a note. But what I truly found was proof that love never leaves. And I promise you, when you look closely enough, you will find it too.